Ah, yes, the Nobel University. A noble place where young minds of the world create something new and interesting, bring history to life, are prepared for the universe. In Malaysia, we too have some of these incredible institutions where students can learn to cosplay as the KKK. No, this is not a joke. What you're looking at right now is a whole bunch of UiTM students literally walking around campus wearing hoods, masquerading as murderers, racists, haters of Jews, blacks, anything not white under the sun. Ladies and gentlemen, what we witnessed there is the product of some of the finest minds in the entirety of Malaysia on a social survey for their contemporary global and legal issues project. It happened at the Dengkil campus of University Technology Mara in Dengkil. They received an assignment from their lecturer where basically they could choose any one of 3 topics, had to do a kind of like social survey to collect data from all around the community before compiling it into the presentation. And the video that you saw was basically that data collection process. A strictly educational project, never mind the whole dressing up as members of a deranged, probably Malay-hating cult with a history of torture and probably psychopathy to imitate Christian extremists in a school where the majority of people are Muslim. Never mind that there's no KKK in Malaysia, or that the KKK doesn't like brown people. It is all in the name of learning. When I saw that this happened at UiTM, or by the way that they did a whole photo shoot for the lulz, I was like somehow just not surprised.
Neither are a lot of Malaysians, apparently.
Because of all the places in the entirety of Malaysia, to have some people walk around wearing KKK hoods, I feel that UiTM is like a solid number 1. Because at UiTM, they always do such a great job protesting minorities,
Hazing their
juniors in weird orientation ceremonies, and, not sure if this is true or not, interesting dakwah campaigns that even Zakir Naik himself would never have thought of. Alright, jokes aside, let's backtrack a bit. UiTM, for those of you who don't know, is one of the biggest hallmarks of Bumiputra affirmative action in the entirety of Malaysia. It started out in Malaysia's post-colonial efforts to lift the Bumiputras out of poverty. It basically started as the Dewan Latihan Rida back in 1956 to provide training and skills for rural Malays, lower that socioeconomic gap, until finally in 1967, the needle was threaded, the Institute Technology Mara quilt was knitted, and in 1999, the quilt evolved into a tapestry, and thus University Technology Mara was born. Ready to grow into the behemoth that it is today, serving 170,000 plus students across the entirety of Malaysia.
which basically means that 1 out of every 7 uni students in Malaysia is a UiTM student.
If you're wondering why something like this is now a breeding ground for the KKK, trust me, the world is wondering as well. But you know what? You shouldn't freak out. Because according to UiTM, it's totally kencana yo. When the university knew that this was a thing, released a whole statement to the media at large, literally defending these people and taking the side of so-called academic freedom, talking about how, oh, the visual approach used is part of a pedagogical method to support high-impact delivery in the classroom. There's nothing wrong with what you did. It is educational. We are such a wonderful school. If you're one of those rare people who has not gone totally crazy, you probably realize that there is something wrong with this. There is a strange and beautiful irony in the fact that an institution like UiTM is literally producing people who thought that creating a full-on nativity play of the KKK was a good idea.
Now, some people say that this is an academic freedom thing, but
I'll be first to admit that it's a hard balance because academic freedom is legitimate. You do want to have the freedom and the space to explore pretty much any idea that you want out there in the universe. But at the same time, you cannot say that every single racist, horrible, and objectionable behavior that you could take part in is only because of your academic project.
if it were just an academic project, then tell me, would this photo shoot have come into existence? I don't think so.
This is literally trivializing the cultural insensitivity about something that you don't even know about in order to take a full-on Instagram photo shoot.
For, by the way, a topic that seems to have no contemporary relevance.
Never thinking about what would happen if someone reasonably smart were to just take those photos and share them with the entire world. Which, by the way, they did. And now the entire world thinks that Malaysia is filled with white supremacists, even though by and large we don't actually have white people. It is offensive, it glorifies racism, and for generation after generation, they are going to affect how every single university student from Malaysia is perceived in the eyes of the world. Now, some people might argue that, oh, come on now, this is not offensive. Well, UiTM, I don't know how much civic awareness you can get by literally dressing up as a racist, supremacist group and then gallivanting around campus. Imagine flipping the script, and what you do instead is you pretend that you're an IDF soldier and go around holding fake corpses that look like mutilated women and children. I don't know, like, is that educational? Do you learn something from that? Or does it glorify it? If you actually accept that it is acceptable, then that means that technically anybody and everybody around the world can literally just go around, do anything as offensively as they possibly can, and then later on tell you, bro, you have no chill, I was just cosplaying. And it makes you think about the institutional reasons as to why it is that you're going out there and doing these kinds of things without fearing the consequences. What's probably most problematic is that when a whistleblower started talking about all of this, then there were people literally coming up trying to force them to delete their posts, threaten them along the way. And instead of actually helping the person who tried to whistleblow in the first place, the university literally imprisoned the person trying to share the story with the world.
Well, if this is an academic freedom thing, then why is UiTM going against its own students?
It is wild to see this weird exercise within the entire UiTM system that facilitates racism, implicitly encourages it, and is training a whole generation of students that somehow thinks that these kinds of behaviors are not only okay, but will be endorsed by the university environment. Now, I'm not saying that all the students and lecturers in this place are bad, because there were definitely members of the UiTM community who spoke out even at personal risk in order to tell the world about what was actually going on in this situation. But the fact is, if you have a rotten system, the actions, the beliefs, and the thoughts of one single person are not enough to change the entire system. There are so many examples of that back home. Like systemic racism in Malaysia itself, people literally going out calling everybody not of their race, type M, type I, type C, tungganging on issues day in and day out, featuring temples, durian plantations, because it just seems natural for them to come out yapping.
Yet somehow this was not the topic of choice.
The fact is that a university should not have a culture of protecting wrongdoers or helping people to just trivialize things that affected people in horrible and bad ways, while neglecting to realize that a person could do the very same thing to their religion instead, and they would probably get triggered even if they think to themselves that trivializing somebody else's experiences or religion or feelings just because it's an academic exercise is somehow acceptable. If you add together this gaslighting, you end up getting this dumb, angry, insensitive, and callous generation of students, trained in the ways of racism, supremacy, and no desire or wish to actually integrate with one another at all. And people who are threatening people definitely shouldn't be given the light of day. How can you expect the youth of this country to ever become successful if they keep getting caught in this entitled mindset that everything will be alright, they will be protected, even if they find themselves in situations where protection is no longer an option? I'm not saying this to bring down UiTM. I think that it is an important institution in the sense that it graduates a lot of people. We might have different opinions about whether or not that should be the case or how valuable UiTM really is to our society at large. If it cannot get this aspect of the culture right, it cannot train up model citizens or people who are actually worthwhile for the workforce. I think that we can all agree that there needs to be a better culture of responsibility and governance, and we can't just go all full on out academic freedom without actually properly vetting ideas and understanding the impacts that our actions have upon society, even if we just view them as homework.
Or for that matter, being nefariously complicit, which is what we hope is not the case.
Alright, that's all I have to say about that, and bye.